Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Season's greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And not only that, but this is going to be the final episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast in 2023. Don't worry, the show is going to continue in 2024 onward, but this is going to be the last one of the year, considering that, well, by the way, thank you for the extra little subscriptions there, TK and KS19. Very nice of you. And yes, happy holidays to you all. Now, this is going to be something that I will state at the end of this episode, but it bears repeating, and I might as well go and start it off by saying it right now so that you guys can already know. But since I did state that this will be the last episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast in 2023, that means that for the next 2 weeks onward, there will be no episode, considering that those are going to be the big holidays. Next week is going to be Christmas, and then the week after that is going to be New Year's. So from there, we're all going to go and take a break. I know that these are times where everybody is going to be very busy, myself included. I will be spending time with the family. So from there, we're going to put AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast on hold. But we will be coming back on the week afterwards on January 8th, where we will go and do the big annual countdown of the top 5 animation news of 2023. We might as well go and make that big send-off our final goodbye to 2023 before we go and move onward to the crazy world that we are about to get into with 2024. I know it's going to be a pretty scary year. We don't know what's going to happen, but we know there's going to be a lot of madness that will be in store, but let's go and hope for the best. But anyways, we will go and try to make the most out of what we have with today's episode. This is going to be one where we will have a lot of fun. I got a lot of big name animation news that we are going to go and cover, and it will give us also a bit of a glimpse of what will be in store in 2024. So with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I would like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you all ready? Let's see now. Yes. Oh, and we got some extra happy holidays. That is lovely to see. All right. I see that people are prepared. People are set. That is great to see. And now let us go and prepare ourselves, because it is time to get things started. And with that said, we are now about to enter upon our first story. And speaking of having a glimpse of 2024, I know there's going to be plenty of animated features that will be coming during that year. And there are some that, of course, are pretty anticipated, including Inside Out 2, which that's going to be coming out in the middle of the year. But from there is another one that already seems to be pretty anticipated, as we got another sequel based on a very popular franchise. And it's been quite a while since we have seen this character in particular, at least on the big screen. We know that this DreamWorks character did spend a good amount of time on streaming services and on streaming shows, including The Dragon Knight. But this time around, now Poe is going to be making his big screen comeback, and one that promises that it will be quite as big as some of his previous major adventures. So with that said, let us go and start things off by looking into our first story by checking out the trailer for the upcoming sequel, Kung Fu Panda 4.
It is time to take the next step on your journey.
And that is Kung Fu Panda 4, to which the movie is scheduled to be released in theaters on March 8th. And I can tell you right now that I myself am actually a fan of Kung Fu Panda. I wouldn't say I am a big fan to the point that I would really follow the franchise, including watching all the shows and stuff like that. Admittedly, I've only seen the movies, so maybe that would make me a bit of a casual fan, but still though, I would say that I am a fan of the Kung Fu Panda movies. I really enjoyed the first one. The second one is amazing, and I do consider it to be the best of the movies. The third one is definitely good, but I do consider it a bit weaker compared to the first and the second, but, you know, still really enjoyable on its own. And seeing the return of Po and, like, everything that you enjoy in Kung Fu Panda, now with the fourth movie, this definitely got me hyped, especially with the promise of all the cool animation. And I mean, of course, it is going to deliver on a lot of the action scenes. And it looks like with a whole bunch of them, like you'll see, like you're going to get some moments where you're going to get Po and you're going to get several of the other characters that they're going to be kicking butt. They're going to do like many of their kung fu action that we all know and love from the characters. So, like we know that they are going to deliver. And not only that, but I mean, the animation, just like before, is just absolutely stellar. And I think one thing that really did stand out in term, at least visually, is actually the new villain, which is the Chameleon, which apparently is this shapeshifter who would take anybody's kung fu, and then she would go and turn into the person that she stole the kung fu from. And one example that we have seen is when she actually brought back Tai Lung, the villain from the first movie. And that's also another factor that many people are very much excited for, is to see the comeback of Tai Lung. And even I myself really got excited. I was like, oh my god, they're bringing him back. Yo, hello. Now, in terms of his role, now we don't know if it's going to be as big as like what we see here. Maybe he'll actually join Po into fighting against the Chameleon. Maybe this is just his cameo. We don't know, but apparently Tai Lung is going to be making a comeback. So already that is something that's going to grab many people's attention. But anyways, going back to what I was talking about with the Chameleon, just seeing the animation of the character and how she would transform, like, that's always really cool. And like, even seeing right over here, like, that is definitely great. And also another detail that I really do like is when you look at the character very closely, you'll notice the textures is still very much like a chameleon. That you see that, you know, it's not exactly like the character that she would transform into. Yeah, like, the silhouette is exactly the same, but then you would see all the scales that you would see, it's still a reptile. And another one that's like very, you know, another one that you see like it's very much like a reptile is when she transforms into Po, like right at the end, like you see over here. And like you see all the like you see gradually how all the scales would just be morphing into shape. Like you see like in each, you know, like in each frame, you see like the scales slowly going into place. You know, that effect, I gotta say, is actually really cool. And already one of the plus sides is seeing what the villain has in terms of her ability and what she can do. So that is honestly something that I think is actually really cool and a part of my hype for this. So at the very least, the animation, the action, and the villain herself, those are things that I could confidently say they can definitely deliver. Like in terms of what you want to find in terms of a popcorn flick sense, like Kung Fu Panda 4 will definitely be the film that when March comes around, like, yeah, I could see people flocking into the movie theaters just to go and check out some awesomeness of Kung Fu Panda. So in that regard, yeah, they'll deliver on that. That is why I feel like already it's gonna put it among one of my most anticipated films of 2024. However, there are some catches as well, and there are a few things that there is a part of me that admittedly I feel like it's not necessarily going to be a fantastic movie. I don't know if it's going to be as great as the previous films, because there are a few flaws that I do notice that's kind of holding me back from feeling like this is going to be one of the best movies, or at least one of the best animated films in 2024. And the first thing that I do want to point out is the fact that now, considering that we are entering upon the fourth movie, I feel like now the formula of Kung Fu Panda is starting to be clear. That now there is this story structure that the Kung Fu Panda movies would regularly follow, and now it's becoming a little bit more clear that we are noticing this pattern, especially right at the beginning where you see Po having a chat with Shifu, and he would go and tell Po, like, all right, now is the time that you must be the spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace. And like that is something that we see again and again with the previous Kung Fu Panda films, where like in each one, Po has to become, or he has to go and earn this new title. Like in the first film, he becomes the Dragon Warrior, or in the second film, he would become the Warrior of Black and White, or in the third film, I forgot what the title would be, but he would become the teacher of all the pandas for them to go and defend themselves. And now with this one, he has to become the spiritual warrior of the Valley of Peace, you know? Like now he has to gain another title. And of course, in Kung Fu Panda fashion, following afterwards, we see that over here, Po, at first, he doesn't seem to understand the whole situation. He doesn't get like how it all works. And then from there, we see him go on this adventure where he has to stop the big bad guy that is considered to be this massive threat. And from there, he learns how to be this leader. He learns what it means to go and get that title. So from there, I feel like in terms of the narrative, from what this trailer is showing us, yes, it's going to be a Kung Fu Panda movie, but it will be a Kung Fu Panda movie to a fault where now, like, they're just making it pretty obvious that like I said before, that there is this formula that these movies would go and continuously follow. And at this point, it's just starting to feel a little bit repetitive. Now it just feels like, okay, you're not necessarily really trying something new with this movie. Now you're just, you know, you got like this format going on and you're just following this checklist, you know, like, and that's what I feel, you know, that's when I feel like a story can be a bit of a turnoff, is when it's starting to feel more like a checklist than it is like an actual adventure that you want to go and follow along. Not to say that this won't execute it well, but already, I mean, it's something that it's hard to not notice. It's like, okay, now you see it's there, and it's just something that you feel like, okay, it's, you know, it's not really a great thing that it would go and do so. Also, now this isn't necessarily a criticism, but this is a bit of a question that I would like to go and ask. One thing that I feel like it's noticeable that it's not there is the Furious Five. Like based on what we have seen with the cast and based on what we have seen from this trailer, it looks like the Furious Five is nowhere to be found, especially when Po now has to go and find this new ragtag team in order to go and stop the villain. And there is a part of me that I feel like I can't help but feel like Kung Fu Panda 4 is now sharing a lot of similarities to Raya and the Last Dragon. I mean, it's already enough that we got another prominent character who is being voiced by Awkwafina, but now Po has to go and travel along into these different cities in this Asian-like area, where now he has to go and meet up with some crooks and some bandits and some ruffians and basically like these different types of outcasts that would often be looked down upon in terms of the law, where he would have to go and make allegiance with them so that they all team up to go and fight against the big bad guy. So already we're getting a bit of a hint of we are already getting a bit of a hint of Raya and the Last Dragon there. And apparently, according to the chat wall, they're saying that apparently the Furious Five will be coming back. Okay, so all right, so maybe they will. Okay, so they are going to be returning. Okay, good. At least okay, maybe we will actually have an explanation of what's going on with them. But I don't know. But I'm just basing it on what we are seeing with this trailer, and it looks like they won't have that big of a role compared to what they used to. Like maybe we will see like some of the other actors making a quick comeback, like Angelina Jolie or David Cross or Lucy Liu or Jackie Chan or Seth Rogen. Like maybe they'll be returning for a little bit, but it doesn't look like their roles are going to be that big in particular. So however, I will say though, I do trust that in this movie, they will explain what's going on with the Furious Five. Like, I know I made this promise before that, like, okay, maybe this movie will have an explanation, but then it turns out it didn't happen because, like, honestly, I feel I feel a bit cautious when saying that because I got screwed over last time, and it's actually very recent because I know in the previous times I've talked about Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget, especially with the return of Mrs. Tweety. And I was asking, maybe the movie will go and explain how the heck she returned from the first movie after she got crushed by that giant door, that giant wall. Maybe they'll have an explanation. But minor spoilers, but I'll just say I have seen Dawn of the Nugget, and unfortunately, they explained nothing in terms of Tweety's return. They didn't explain how she came back. They confirmed that it is, in fact, Mrs. Tweety, but yeah, she's back. Just deal with it and move on. But I don't think that's going to be the same case with Kung Fu Panda 4. However, I do feel like maybe they'll have an explanation of what is going on with the Furious Five, or we will have an appearance from the Furious Five to know what is going on and where are they in Kung Fu Panda 4. So hopefully that will, hopefully they will go and address that. But also it is worth noting in terms of the villain, the Chameleon, because I know I've already given her a lot of great praise, especially with her abilities and especially how they look like in terms of anime. Okay, no, that's Tai Lung. I mean, yeah, right over here with the Chameleon. Like, okay, I know that I've already said that she's definitely a great villain with an awesome ability, but not everyone is particularly a fan of this new villain. And I saw one person actually bringing up a good point in terms of a criticism about her, and that is regarding the fact that she feels like she is a copy of Kai from the third movie, especially with her ability where she would steal the abilities of her opponent and then she would go and become that. It feels like it feels pretty similar to what Kai would do, where he would go and take the chi off of any of the Kung Fu masters, and he would use that chi in order to turn that into Jade warriors, where he would turn them into Jade slaves, where they would go and have the exact same abilities as the person's chi, but then they would obey Kai's orders. So it's a little bit similar to that, and it feels like they're kind of repeating. And not to mention, it's also worth noting that apparently the Chameleon right over here, she actually has a similar staff to what Poe got at the end of the third movie, which is also a staff that Poe is also carrying. And from there, it could be possible that her backstory, she might have a similar narrative where she was an apprentice or she worked alongside Master Oogway, but then things never really worked out and she became evil and all that stuff. So I will give the criticisms that it is true that honestly, yeah, there are some parallels to other villains or what they have already done in the past Kung Fu Panda films, so maybe there's not that much originality in terms of her backstory or in terms of her abilities, but I cannot deny that it still does look cool nonetheless. And some people are even saying that, yeah, maybe there is a chance that maybe she stole the staff. Maybe this is not her. She stole it from either Master Oogway or she stole it from Po. Like the whole cameo with Tai Lung, maybe that's going to happen much later in the film. Who knows? There are all those possibilities, but I will say overall, I know I don't have a lot of time left for this part of the story, but I will say, even though this is not necessarily perfect, and there are a few flaws that are noticeable, especially with the repetitive formula, and maybe there are some elements that they would take from other movies and from the past Kung Fu Panda films. I will say, though, there are a lot of it where it does look like it's going to be a lot of fun. Again, the animation definitely delivers, and the action looks like it's going to deliver. And not to mention, also, just want to give out a quick shout out to Jack Black. I almost forgot to mention, but just yesterday, or the day before I recorded this, Jack Black actually won an Emmy for his performance as Po in the Kung Fu Panda series, The Dragon Knight. So congratulations to Jack Black, and a very well-deserved award. But anyways, still though, I am pretty optimistic, and I am excited to see what they have in store with Kung Fu Panda 4. And if you are excited for the movie, then keep in mind that the film will be coming out on March 8th. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I would like to ask you all, what do you think of the Kung Fu Panda 4 trailer? Are you excited for the movie? Are you a little iffy about it? And especially if you are a Kung Fu Panda fan, let me know what you think. All right, let's see. I really enjoyed the Kung Fu Panda franchise, with the second being my personal favorite. I am really excited to see the fourth installment. The villain got me extra intrigued. Really want to see Lord Shen in the next trailer, as DreamWorks has said all of Po's enemies will be returning. Can't wait for this movie next March. Oh my god, all of it? Holy crap, I'm not gonna lie. Lord Shen is one of my favorite DreamWorks villains and one of my favorite animated villains. If he makes a comeback, I'm gonna flip. Oh my lord. Anyways, I'll admit it, I have my doubts about this movie, but I'm pleasantly surprised. The story isn't a ton to write home about, but the animation is very well directed, the comedy is pretty solid, and the chameleon is already a very intimidating antagonist. Kind of makes sense when you factor in the fact that Viola Davis is voicing her. This will be a great watch, but if Po really needed an army to fight the chameleon, what about the five? The film feels naked without the immortal words of the Oogway, monkey. Yeah, that is true, and that's one thing that I am hoping for that they would go and explain. And honestly, if I would go and make a guess, maybe the chameleon took all of their abilities and she could go and transform into the Furious Five. And that would actually make one heck of an awesome fight scene. Imagine, like, Po is going to be fighting against the chameleon, and then she would go and transform into each of the Furious Five. That would actually make a pretty awesome scene right there. Again, I know it might be a little bit repetitive to Kung Fu Panda 3, because they might have had a scene that is a little bit similar, but still, I'm just thinking about the possibilities. Let's see what else we got here. 2023 may have been a bust for DreamWorks, but 2024 looks like it will be a comeback year for them. With the while the fourth movie is usually the point where most animated franchise has become stale, this might at least be an enjoyable romp with a lot of fun action, though I never realized how formulaic the Kung Fu Panda movies were until you pointed out. We'll have to wait and see whether or not it will be good, but it looks at least promising. Exactly, I think you described it best. So far, the best word to describe what we have seen so far is that it is promising. Maybe it won't be great, but so far, it holds a lot of promise. Let's see what else we got here. What other comments? As a fan of Kung Fu Panda, I gotta say, skadoosh! The animation looks spot on, the chameleon looks like a likable and threatening villain, and seeing Tai Lung, or should I say Tai Lag, is making a comeback. Especially the textures look upgraded on the characters, which I gotta say I really like. However, the only downside I have for this movie, do we need a fourth Kung Fu Panda movie? I feel like Kung Fu Panda 3 would have concluded the franchise, but I guess I was wrong. Yeah, I know. I think, like, it's not just with Kung Fu Panda. I think it's with all franchises. You know, like, I know with Toy Story, like, a lot of people have, like, mixed opinions about Toy Story 4. And I mean, technically, Kung Fu Panda isn't going to be the only movie that will be coming out with a fourth film. There's also going to be Despicable Me that's coming out with a fourth movie. And I mean, I really like the Despicable Me films, but even I'm questioning if it's necessary to go and have a fourth feature. All right, so let's see what else we got here. I do feel excited for this movie. DreamWorks sure looks like they know how to make good continuations from the first movies. Also, if I had a nickel for every DreamWorks movie making a Fox character that everyone sims for, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Speaking of Zen, I can tell you that that artists are definitely enjoying drawing her in very different poses, if you get what I mean. Please do not kink shame us. No, trust me, I'm not kink shaming, but honestly, it's pretty funny because it's not only that, but I would also say if I had a nickel for every time that DreamWorks created an animated character voiced by Awkwafina that people would end up simping for, I would have 2 nickels as well. Alright, but anyways, I think I'll read one more comment before we go on to our first break. I grew up with the franchise, just the movies only, as I saw all of them in theaters as a kid and as a teen, but didn't see the series from Amazon and Netflix outside of some episodes from Nickelodeon. All of them were great, with the second film being the best, although I do hope the fourth film is good, as it looks promising with action scenes, the animation, and Jack Black's return as Poe. By the way, congrats on him winning an Emmy, my dude. I do hope it looks good, and I find Awkwafina's character to be cute. See, even people here are sipping for the Awkwafina character. Alright, so anyways, we're going to go on to our first break, and when we do return, well, I mean, we're not going to be going to horny jail, we're going to horny hell, so stay tuned for that. Okay, I don't know why, like, my thing somehow decided not to just get back. I had to do it manually. I thought I managed to fix that up. But anyways, okay. Now that we are officially back, it is now time that we will go and jump onto our next trailer. And with this one, I feel like for the animation community, I have to go and talk about this because I feel like, honestly, this is one of those stories that if I didn't talk about it, then oh boy, are people gonna be upset, and people will be like complaining in the comments like, why didn't you talk about this? You should have talked about this, and and all that kind of stuff, especially with the fact that we are going to be discussing about a massive animation phenomenon. And from there, it looks like it's about to be a whole lot bigger because it's not just a viral sensation, but now it's going to go and become something much bigger, where it will be turned into a big name mainstream streaming franchise. So with that said, let us go ahead and now check out the trailer for the upcoming Amazon animated series, Hazbin Hotel.
It's great, right? Keep going.
And that is Hazbin Hotel, or at least the season 1 of Hazbin Hotel, that will be premiering on Amazon Prime Video on January 19th. Now, one thing I will confess is that, admittedly, it's been quite a while since I have seen the pilot of Hazbin Hotel. I mean, I've been very busy recently, especially with all the reviews and with the holidays, and especially with like the previous week that, oh my god, it's been pretty rough, especially when I actually did catch COVID, so I had to spend some time to go and recover from that. But good news, by the way, I am a whole lot better, and I did test negative, so we're all fine. Don't worry, it's all good. But anyways, but I mean, it's safe to say that, I mean, it's a great pilot. Like what Vivzy Pop and her team has created with it, it's just absolutely fantastic. And I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory of how that became a viral sensation, and even big enough to the point of being picked up by A24 in order to be turned into this major animated series. And the next big thing that so far is going to be coming out on Amazon Prime Video. But one thing that I do want to point out, and one thing that I feel like is going to be a major test, is going to see how I pretty much have said it, that where when it comes to this Hazbin Hotel series, it's going to be a major test to see how things are going to be in terms of online animated pilots, because nowadays when it comes to indie animation, the biggest spot where they can be easily discovered is actually online, where nowadays even some of the biggest animated projects in recent years are not necessarily those that you would find either on television, on streaming, or even on the big screen. They're actually found online. And it's not just with Hazbin Hotel and Vivian Medrano's other major series with Hazbin Hotel. There are also other pilots and other animated projects that they became viral sensations and they became very popular in their own right. There's also Spooky Month. There's Lackadaisy, and let's not forget about the latest sensation, The Amazing Digital Circus, where in just a matter of literally weeks, just weeks, made over 100 million views. So already there's a massive market in the animation industry that can be found online, that you don't necessarily have to work for the major studios in order to create the next animation sensation. Now, the indie scene is getting a spotlight thanks to the help of the internet, where they can also find their own brand of popularity right there, and that even something like Hazbin Hotel can be as popular as some of the mainstream stuff. And now we are going to see a major test to see how big, how these big name Hollywood companies, that they would go and take those projects and try to bring that into the mainstream world. Is that going to be something that would massively work? Because technically, yes, even though Vivzie Pop is going to go and create this series in particular, like she is still in charge of all this, there is still some changes in order to be adapted into the mainstream world. And I know that this is going to be something that will be massively controversial. I don't know if people are going to be 100% cool with it. And that is especially, number one, the changing of the cast, in which now it actually features some recognizable names, in which this includes Erica Henningsen? Yeah, Erica Henningsen. Sorry for the mispronunciations there. We also got Stephanie Beatrice, Alex Brightman, Keith David, Kimiko Glenn, Blake Roman, Amir Talai, Christian Borle, and Joel Perez, along with having, they got some Broadway guest stars, and even original music and lyrics created by Sam Haft and Andrew Underberg. So this is very much like a major company that's coming in and, Hollywooding it up in order to go and present it to the mainstream. And especially even with what we have seen with this trailer, they even advertise that they want to make this as big as Broadway. Like, they even said, like, featuring the most devilish voices of Broadway, like, trying to compare it to that kind of scale. They want to go and present it, like, as this big musical production. So already the hype is getting massively big. But the big thing about it, and one thing that I feel like is really worth keeping an eye on, is to see if it is successful, then what is it going to mean for the rest of indie animation who would make these viral cartoons online? Because this could end up setting a brand new standard in animation, and that is if Hazbin Hotel is a massive success on Amazon Prime Video. And I don't just mean like gathering a whole lot of views, but also if the fans absolutely love it. If they give their seal of approval to that project, if they say that it is as good as the pilot that we have gotten from Vivzie Pop, then from there we could see a new generation, that we could see a new generation of animated projects where now they're going to be sourced from the internet, where now Hollywood is going to be paying more attention to what people will be producing online. And if it goes viral, then that could be their key to go and actually become big with whatever streaming service or whatever network would want to go and pick them up. And if it works for Amazon, then who knows? Maybe we will see more pilots be brought to life, that we will see stuff like Lackadaisy or The Amazing Digital Circus or many, many more of these indie projects. Now suddenly they will have a much wider audience. They will be picked up by Hollywood. And yeah, maybe there will be some changes, like include some recognizable celebrities to be among the voices, or they will have like more writers that are more experienced in the Hollywood and entertainment industry, that they'll have some of their people to go and work with with the original creators to go and create them. It could set that kind of brand new standard. But again, it is only if this actually works out. Because I know that even though that something like Hazbin Hotel has a very devoted fan base, I know it's something that people can often get crazy for to a fault. And that is and I'm not saying that the Hazbin Hotel fans are bad or anything like that. Of course not. But of course, like any other fan bases, there can be a bit of that kind of toxicity as well, where if everything is not perfect, well, then people are going to be massively upset. So, and that's why I did bring up the fact that there are going to be some different voices that will be included in Hazbin Hotel. And I know that there are a lot of people who already express their opinion. I mean, this is not new news, This is something in which people are already aware that it will be a bit different compared to how it was in the original pilot. But still, though, this is going to be a factor that if fans are not going to be happy, then the ratings and the views, they won't necessarily matter all that much. Because that could be something that if the first few episodes don't make a great first impression, then it could be something that it will make the popularity just significantly dip. And unfortunately, it could ruin things in terms of the prospects for indie animation on YouTube. So that's why I feel like right now, even though unfortunately, I know I am putting in a lot of pressure onto this series in particular, and I'm portraying it as like the, make it or break it kind of thing for all of indie animation. But, I really do feel like this is something that we should all be keeping an eye out for. And I know technically this is not necessarily the first time that we have seen something like this, where a big company would take something from the internet and they would go and bring it to the mainstream. Like we've already seen it before with something like The Annoying Orange turned into a Cartoon Network show and stuff like that. It has already happened several times in the past, but this one, I feel like it's a little bit different because now we are entering upon, considering that indie animation, like the environment of it has become pretty different right now. Now we are seeing like that being adopted to Hollywood, and now they're going to go and turn that into like a major production for their platforms as well. Like this isn't just like, this isn't like a little thing that you can easily go and upload on YouTube. This is now something that people are actually putting up on the big name platforms, especially with one of the biggest streaming platforms right now, Amazon Prime Video. So is this going to be a big hit? Is it something that fans are going to be satisfied with? Honestly, that is something that we will have to go and wait and see. But still, though, the fact that an indie project like this already made it up to this point where it's already now this major, now it has already become this big name, Amazon Prime. Like it's already this massively inspiring story, like the fact that Vivian Medrano has made it into the industry so much to the point where now like she is becoming a big name creator. Like that's already admirable as is, like that's already sounding like someone has made it into the industry. But how much, but now we're going to see the next chapter of it. Is it going to continue? Is this something that will keep on growing? Well, honestly, from there, well, again, we just got to go and wait and see with how this is going to go. So if you are all excited for Hazbin Hotel to come out on Amazon, then keep in mind it will be released on January 19th. All right, and someone else also brought up another example, Oddballs, of course, from the Odds One Out. That's another great example. So, anyways, with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about this trailer of Hazbin Hotel coming to Amazon? Are you excited for this? Do you have any concerns about it? And especially, if you are a fan of Hazbin Hotel, I would love to know your thoughts on it. All right, let's see what we got here. As someone who is a fan of Vivzy Pop's work, especially with Hell of a Boss, this got me excited. The animation stays true to the pilot, the song seems fun, and I definitely do hope this will please the fans of the pilot. So overall, I hope this series will live up to the hype. Also, I would love for someone to pick up The Amazing Digital Circus as a series. Yeah, and I mean, already with what they are showing with this trailer in particular, it already looks fantastic. I mean, already the animation looks sharp, it looks great, and already even the songs, already they sound pretty big. You know, they already sound like they want to be at that Broadway-like level, so we already got that going. Let's see. I'm gonna be real, I'm not a big Hazbin Hotel fan. Nothing against Vivzy Pop and the creators, but it never really grabbed me. As with the trailer, yeah, I'm still not 100% sold. I mean, it looks fine, the songs and the animation are nice, and the cast are doing a bang-up job, but I'm not too big on the comedy. I might check it out later down the line, but for now, thanks. I don't know, I need a capper, so fence. Yeah, exactly, you're on the fence. So, I know and again, I know that when it comes to something like Hazbin Hotel or Vivzy Pop, many people have very strong opinions about it. So I know there are going to be some people who will be very supportive, but at the same time, there might be some detractors as well. I mean, who the fridge knows? Maybe Hazbin Hotel could end up becoming like the next Wish, where it's going to be very divided. I don't know. We'll see. We'll wait and see with how this goes. Anyways, Hazbin Hotel is one of those animated shorts that I quite liked until the animation community ruined it for a bit, but this is something a bit of a big deal, since good indie projects getting not only attention to the mainstream crew, but they are giving this a chance to be on Amazon. So far, what I see, I love hearing Stephanie Beatrice once again singing. The animation is pretty solid, and I do think this is inspiring that anyone can make it. Exactly. If anything, even if the series itself doesn't turn out to be great, it is definitely an inspiring story to see where Vivzy Pop has been, you know, starting out as a small indie creator, making little cartoons on YouTube, and now rising up to fame up to this point. It definitely is admirable. Let's see. Okay, I'll be straightforward with you. I often or do not handle adult humor. My limit is to a Mel Brooks comedy to maybe a gritty DC film, but wow, even if I haven't seen the pilot myself, I feel anticipated just to give this a watch. The animation does look very creative, some moments were pretty funny, and this is just a guilt trip for me with that musical number. That was a pretty tune to hear. It's a real debate if I would actually like it, but I guess it wouldn't hurt to try. Exactly. Let's see. This is going to be awesome. The animation, the songs, the visuals, amazing. I would like to thank A24 and Spindle Horse for making this show. I can't wait to see it when it gets released. Or in other words, the hype is on. All right. Let's see now. As someone who's been a fan of Vivzy Pop since that pilot came out, as much as I want to be excited for Hazbin Hotel, part of me feels hesitant to be hyped, not because of the show itself, but because of Viv's incredibly disturbing, toxic, and cultish fandom who idolize her in a disturbing way and attacking anyone who criticizes the show and Hell of a Boss. And now I have an image of hearing Goliath's voice in the body of a drunken cat. Yeah, you know, honestly, I'm going to admit this is the toxic, the whole toxicity regarding this subject. That's kind of the reason why I've been very hesitant to be open about like indie animated projects, including some of the works of Vivzy Pop. And again, I have nothing against Vivzy Pop or any of the indie animators. It's just there is a lot of that toxicity that has been going on with these kinds of projects, especially whether it be like for people who support it or who are against it. There is this bubbling toxicity that honestly makes me pretty hesitant to even get into that subject, or else I would just be like burned. Like, I know that it sounds crazy for me to go and say that, especially when I'm not afraid to go into some controversial subjects or even to discuss about politics or some serious issues or anything like that. But when it comes to like the fandom and when it comes to the subject like Vivzy Pop or Hazbin Hotel or stuff like that, there are times when I don't really want to go and be public to discuss about my thoughts or anything like that, because sometimes like the reactions and how people can be on the internet about it, it can be a little bit too wild, even for me. So that's just something that I want to go and highlight. Let's see what else we got here. I really enjoyed the pilot and the spin-off series Hell of a Boss. The animation looks amazing since this is 2D. The characters seem likable, especially with Charlie and Alistair. And the songs are very catchy. And if you haven't watched Hell of a Boss, I highly recommend you watch it. It has Richard Horvitz as Moxie, Alex Brightman as Fizzaroli, and some other actors that make guest appearances like Christina V and Michael Cusack making appearances as well. But overall, I am hyped for this. Oh, trust me, I have heard a lot of great things about Hell of a Boss. Like, I don't question that it is a great show. Let's see. When it comes to Hazbin Hotel, I have yet to watch the pilot, but I do understand how it became a viral sensation on the internet. Now that I have seen this trailer for the first time, it looks hellishly nice with the animation and the musical Broadway scenes. But I do wonder how the story goes with these very unique characters in this series. I don't know if I'll watch it, but I'll wait until reviews come out. Yeah, exactly. Let's see, what else do we have here? I think I'll read one more comment before we go on to our next break, because I know, like, I already went through quite a lot. Anyways, I am excited for Hazbin Hotel and not another Family Guy ripoff. I'm happy to see adult animation becoming better and more creative by amazing artists, especially the show is created by a Hispanic woman. Gotta give support to the indie projects when the series comes out on Prime Video. By the way, you mentioned something about joining a boycott in a post last week. What is that about? Well, just to go and make a long story short about it, the boycott is that there was one day on Twitch, and it just so happened to be on that particular day, where people would be boycotting from streaming or anything like that to go and address many of the issues when it comes to streaming and what's been happening in the world in general, including what's been going on with the war in Israel and Palestine and asking for a ceasefire, but also is to go and address on streaming how companies like Twitch and YouTube don't often address issues such as harassment or hate speech or anything like that. So that's just the long story short. I highly recommend you go and look it up, what the boycott is specifically, but honestly, my memory is a little bit fuzzy about it, because I mean, this past week I've been through a lot with a lot of work and COVID, of course, so that's just a bit of the gist of it. All right, so with that said, let us now go into our next break, and when we do come back, we will go and take a look into, oh yes, I don't know why, like I just had a bit of a brain fart, but now I do remember, yes, we are going to be going back on the big screen. We will be discussing about some movies that finally they are about to get their theatrical treatment, so stay tuned for that. All right, now welcome back to our next story. So now that we got all the trailers out of the way, let us go and actually talk about some news. And this is one that actually has been out for a while. And I know that lately, the recent news when it comes to Disney, they have all been pretty bad, especially with a lot of their box office disappointments, like what I talked about in the last episode, with some unfortunate flops such as the Marvels and their new animated feature Wish. And even just today, a few hours before I started recording this episode, it has actually been reported that Jonathan Majors, the man who is playing the big villain of the current phase of the, or not the current phase, but the current saga of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, unfortunately, he has been found guilty of assault, and pretty soon we will be hearing about his sentence, or I hear apparently it's going to be in February where his official sentence is going to be stated. So you could probably imagine, with everything that's been going on right now at Disney, they're pretty much reacting similarly to that one scene in Chicken Run where they're like, "We mustn't panic! We mustn't panic!" Ah! But anyways, we do have one piece of good Disney news that has been going on right now. Now, I don't know if it's necessarily good for Disney per se, but it is something that it is good for us. And what we are going to be talking about is in regards to Pixar. Yes, Pixar has officially announced that when it comes to all three of their movies that they have released exclusively on Disney Plus, okay, well, maybe not exclusively because they also gave them a home media release, but anyways, when it comes to those particular films that they have released on Disney Plus, which includes Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, well, now they have officially announced that for early 2024, they will be giving those three a theatrical release. Yes, a true, or hopefully a true nationwide release where now you can actually get your chance to go and check out movies such as Soul, Luca, and Turning Red in theaters. And they even announced specifically when they are going to be coming out. From my source here on Variety, they mentioned that they're going to go and start things off with Soul, to which that film is going to be coming out in theaters on January 12th. And then about a little under a month later, it will be Turning Red. And then more later, on March 22nd, that's when they're going to put out Luca. And on top of that, it is also worth mentioning that Pixar will also be including an animated short for each of these movies, some of which are just released on Disney Plus, and then there is one classic one as well. Now, for Soul, you will be able to see the animated short Burrow. With Turning Red, you will be able to go and watch Kid Bull. And with Luca, they are going to go and put out the classic animated short For the Birds. So that, and on top of that, we're not going to go and watch it, but they even made a whole trailer to go and make that official announcement. So that is the big thing that Pixar has now officially revealed, that now we could finally see those three movies on the big screen and that they are going to officially have a theatrical release. And I gotta say, oh my God, for me personally, I really like these movies. In fact, when it comes to Soul, I actually consider it to be one of Pixar's best movies, not just in recent years, but just in general. It is a phenomenal feature. And also, when it comes to Luca and Turning Red, I find those movies to be a lot of fun. Maybe not necessarily their best, but still highly enjoyable in their own right, and definitely worth adding onto the Pixar collection. So hearing the news that now they're going to go and have a theatrical release, you bet I am definitely excited for that. And I know that when it came to Disney and when it came to with these Pixar films, like, it is understandable as to why they had to go and just release them on Disney Plus, because they, during their release schedule or during that release date, they were out on a pretty awkward awkward time, especially with the pandemic, where a lot of movie theaters were closed off, so there was no way that they could go and generate revenue at the box office. So their best option was to go and just release them exclusively on Disney Plus, so that not only would those movies actually would actually get a chance to be available for the public to go and see and to keep Pixar's schedule going, but also to help embolden Disney Plus. But like I have previously talked about in the last episode, that is actually a strategy that ended up really screwing them over. And nowadays, we are starting to see many of their movies, and especially their animated films, starting to become flops because people would rather go and wait until those films would be released on Disney Plus. They would rather wait until they're out on streaming, especially with the kind of receptions that they have been getting. There's no major rush to go and watch them on the big screen. It's unfortunately why movies such as Lightyear, Strange World, and most recently Wish ended up becoming box office flops. And then I know there is the argument when it comes to Elemental, but thankfully, it did manage to gradually pick itself up, but we know that things would have been better for that feature. Like, still though, many people have forgotten, but before Elemental was released, or even even amongst the first couple of weeks when Wish or when Elemental came out, it had exactly the same treatment as Wish. Like, a lot of people was, they were capitalizing on the Disney hate and throwing all their hate onto that, and that's why you saw a whole bunch of videos at that time, like, not only slamming the movie, but also slamming Pixar, saying that they're not doing great, that Disney is not doing great, and all that kind of stuff. So from this, so yeah, like, Elemental is the one exception where it did manage to become a box office hit, where it did manage to become like a major hit in general. But still, though, the strategy that they have done with these Pixar movies, it ended up screwing them over in the long run, and now we are actually seeing the consequences of it. Which brings me to another thing to go and discuss about all this, is why specifically they are doing this. Now, I know it seems a bit sudden, it seems a bit out of nowhere. Why now would Disney decide to go and give movies like Soul, Turning Red, and Luca a theatrical release date? And a lot of people have theorized that it is because Disney wants to go and try to recoup the cost of what they have lost with many of their recent movies. Because again, 2023 has been a pretty bad year, not just with Wish and the Marvels, but also with some of their other films as well, like with Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and the Haunted Mansion. So yeah, it's just not been going great with Disney in terms of the box office, especially when they would put in way too much money on their respective budgets, that they would go way too expensive, like with each of them costing around like $200 or $300 million, or even some that are not as expensive as that, but still pretty pricey at $150 million. So you would think that it's because of the losses that they have had is why they would go and release these movies on the big screen. And honestly, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. It's pretty clear that they want to go and try to put in some they want to do some low effort actions in order to regain some of the costs that they have lost from those previous movies. I think it is pretty clear. In fact, I would even go and say that technically this is not the first time that Disney has actually done so. They actually did have a history of re-releasing some of their older movies, or taking some of their older films and putting them on the big screen in order to go and recoup some costs that they have previously lost. And a great example of that is actually back in the 1940s, which was considered to be the first dark age for the Walt Disney Company. And back then, debatably, they were in much worse shape than how they are right now. Like, back in the 1940s, of course, there was World War II, and Disney had no choice but to be a part of it, where some of their animators had to be drafted, or they would have to go and make propaganda cartoons, and they would have to do a lot of work for the government. But from there, they didn't really make much money out of it. You know, they had to do it, unfortunately, out of their own pockets, and once the war was over, oh boy, did the government leave Disney in a very bad shape. It was so bad to the point that Disney was no longer able to go and actually make full-length animated features. They had to resort to a lot of cost-cutting tactics, including really, they had to go and make some package films like Make Mine Music and The Three Caballeros and Melody Time and stuff like that. And then they would also go and make some animation live action hybrids like So Dear to My Heart and Song of the South. But at the same time, from there, like considering that they didn't really have that much revenue that they could go and gain, or that they would have much revenue in the first place to even make a movie, what they have to do, which is a low effort tactic in order to gain some costs, in order to actually gain some revenue by doing next to nothing, they decided to go and re-release their older films like Snow White, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi, that they would go and re-release them on the big screen in the hopes that those re-releases would become hits so that they could gain some money while they're trying to pick themselves back up financially. And this turned out to be a tactic that was actually very successful for them. And for the next few decades, they actually kept on going and make a tradition of repeatedly releasing some of their older animated films onto the big screen until the early 1990s, where there was no need to do so because of the creation of home media, where Disney would rather, instead of just releasing their movies again and again on the big screen, that they would go and release them on VHS so that people could buy it and they could go and rewatch it as many times as they want, and found a brand new market that they really capitalized on. That I can tell you, the home media market did absolute wonders for Disney. So all this is to go and pretty much say that, yes, Disney did have a history of re-releasing their movies as a way to put in some low-effort revenue. And I mean, this is definitely no different with what we are seeing right over here. And it is worth noting, by the way, that I know following afterwards, even in recent years, Disney has been releasing their animated movies again and again. Like, they have done so. They continued, but they are a lot more rare, and they would go and save those occasions for times that they would go and put out some special events or some special anniversaries. Like throughout 2023, they have actually re-released many of their big name movies because of the 100th anniversary. Now, it is a very limited run, and only a few selected theaters would go and do that, but it is something that technically they would still do, but for very rare occasions. But in this case right over here, it looks like it is going to be a little bit different. This one, though, one thing I don't know, actually, speaking of limited releases, I am not 100% sure if this is going to be something that Disney is going to do worldwide, if this is going to be something that they will put out into as many big screens as possible, or if this is just going to be another one of those limited releases where it's only in a few places across the US where they're just going to go. And honestly, if the latter is going to be the case, then that would be disappointing for me, because I am from Canada, and it is rare if Disney would go and actually put out some of their big screen re-releases. Like, I have managed to see some. Like, I remember back in the early 2010s when 3D was like all the rage, and Disney would re-release their films in 3D, like The Lion King or Monsters Inc. and stuff like that. I remember I've seen a few of those. But this year, when Disney did their big 100 re-releases, I don't think any of them ever came to Canada, or at least in my area. Like, maybe they would do a few in Toronto, but that's pretty much it. And that's one thing I am personally hoping for, is that with the movies like Turning Red, Soul, and Luca, that they would give them a much wider release and give more people a bigger opportunity to go and actually check them out on the big screen. So overall, is Disney doing this in order to go and make things up for the revenue that they have lost for some of the movies in 2023? Obviously, yes. Now, is this going to be a strategy that could actually work for Disney? That Soul, Luca, and Turning Red could actually turn out to be big box office hits? Most likely not. But honestly, I feel like this is a big win for the fans. This is a big win for people like me. For those who actually do want to actually see these movies on the big screen, now they can actually have an opportunity to do so. That now I can actually have a chance to go and watch something like Soul or Luca or Turning Red in the way that they are meant to be, to go and watch this on the big screen, especially back when Disney would go and pull off that move during the pandemic. Like there was it was like a big drama that people have been freaking out, and like people were giving like backlash towards Disney for not releasing them on the big screen, and that people were really upset. And now at least we can have an opportunity to make things up for it and actually go and check them out on the big screen. So personally, I'm definitely excited for it, and I'm hoping Disney can do a wide release with these films. Alright, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and now I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about Luca, Turning Red, and Soul getting a big screen release? And also, are you going to be checking them out on the big screen? Let me know what you all think on this. Alright, let's see now. I am super happy that Soul, Luca, and Turning Red are finally getting their chance on the big screen like they were meant to. I'm more excited and interested to see Luca in theaters, as it is one of my top 3 Pixar films. I will have to skip Soul and Turning Red, as they are not my favorites in the Pixar library in my honest opinion. Still, I am very happy that these 3 movies got their big break, and hope Luca will be playing in my nearest theater. Alright, as a big fan of movie theaters, this news makes me very happy. I would love to see Soul, Luca, and Turning Red on the big screen, so this is a great way to finally have that chance. I'm not expecting it to make things up for the recent failures of Marvel's and Wish, but it is still nice of Disney to give these films a theatrical release, especially with Soul, because I can only imagine how amazing that film will look in a theater. Oh yeah, and again, for me, my most hype, is it weird to say that Soul is one of my most anticipated movies of 2024? No, seriously, I mean, like, I love that movie, and I would, it would be amazing to see that film on the big screen. Oh my god, like, that is something that I feel like would absolutely be worth the hype. Let's see what else we got here. Seeing all 3 Pixar films that were getting sent over to Disney Plus and actually having a theatrical run was delightful news to hear. I know they are probably doing this just to recoup costs, as well as no new big movies for Disney in early 2024 until the summer with Planet of the Apes and Inside Out 2, but having these overdue Pixar films that have never gotten a theatrical release is great to see, so I'll definitely get to check out all of them when they come out. Alright, awesome. Let's see what else we got. Justice has been served. I have an interesting story to tell about Soul and Turning Red. I already watched these films on the big screen. Not only that, but at each screening I went, they had the directors doing an in-person Q&A about the movies. This is where I first met Domishi and Pete Docter. The latter said that this was the first time he's seen the movie with an audience, and I'm so glad I'm part of that audience. So I can't wait to watch these films again along with Luca. Awesome. Alright, this is something I've never expected. As someone who loves all 3 of these movies, this is definitely a major win. The fact that we will finally get to see these movies that released during the pandemic on the big screen is amazing, and I would love to see other streaming animated films come to the big screen, so overall, this is a very exciting moment. Also, on a side note, regarding the Jonathan Majors situation, Disney and Marvel has already confirmed that they've already fired him. Well, I mean, considering that this whole situation that's been going on with Jonathan Majors, just to go on a quick side note, like, hopefully Disney and Marvels have already gotten a plan of what to do with this situation, because, yeah, it is pretty serious, and considering the big role that they have given to him with Kang for the MCU, hopefully they will have a plan, and hopefully they will do something that it will keep like a good momentum for Marvel, and hopefully it will be something that, that the fans can also go and agree with, because Marvel is not necessarily in a strong stage right now, so there's a lot of a lot of rebuilding themselves that they have to do, and this is definitely one that is a priority to go and fix. All right, let's see. Any other comments that we would have? I think I already read that one. I think I guess, okay, 2 more comments and then we'll go to the next. If you think about it, it looks like 2024 might be a good year for Pixar. Inside Out 2 is hyped, Soul, Luca, and Turning Red are getting a theatrical release they deserve, and for the first time since 2018, Pixar Fest is returning to the Disneyland Resort. Oh, funny enough, I was actually I remember being a part of the Pixar Fest. I remember, like, I was at Disneyland while the Pixar Fest was happening, and yeah, it definitely is true. And already, considering the viral nature of Inside Out 2 and how that got a lot of hype, at the very least, Inside Out 2 is already on a good track to become Disney's next big hit, and the next big animated hit that they desperately needed after the financial failures that they have received. So already, like that, and on top of getting the theatrical releases of the other Pixar films, so that's already a pretty big win right there. All right, one more right over here. Part of this re-release is the fact that Disney has no new movie scheduled for release until Inside Out 2 in June of 2024, due to the writers and actors strike earlier this year. And yeah, that definitely is true. You do bring up a very good point right there. Excuse me. Especially with the fact that technically, their next big releases would have been Elio and the Snow White remake, but considering the fact that they did delay those to 2025, yeah, their schedule has been pretty empty until they got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So from there, they have to go and fill it with something. So it serves into multiple purposes. And especially since around those times, it doesn't seem like there's going to be major releases coming, with the exception of Luca. Since in March, it will be pretty busy with some big name releases. But at least with Soul and with Turning Red, it doesn't look like there's anything major that's going to be coming out around that time. So they could have some room that they could actually breathe. And that's especially the case. Like, maybe some people might disagree with me, and maybe there will be like some other new releases that will grab people's attention. But at least in terms of family-friendly offerings for animated films, especially, it looks like they're in the clear. It's just going to be them, and really the only competition that they would actually have would be just like the ones that have already been released in November, like Trolls Band Together and Wish. So at least they'll have room to breathe when they're going to be coming out on the big screen. But anyways, just to quickly repeat, if you want to watch these movies, keep in mind that Soul is going to be coming out on January 12th, Turning Red is going to be coming out on February 9th, and Luca is coming out on March 22nd. Alright, so with that said, we're going to go on to our next break. And when we do come back, we are going to go and look into an annual tradition. And with this tradition, we got 2 new animated features that will be a part of history. So stay tuned for that. Alright, now it is time that we will jump onto our next story. And with this one that we have over here, like I said, this is something that happens very close to Christmas time, an annual tradition to take certain movies, both old and kind of recent, and go and honor them so that they could be historically preserved, that they are considered important enough in our culture and very significant to both our history and cinema's history that they are considered legendary movies. Now, I know that there are a lot of very prestigious awards that you could go and give to a film or whatever, like an Oscar, a Golden Globe, or whatever, but one of the most prestigious of them all is to be inducted to the National Film Registry. And this year, the Library of Congress has officially announced its list of 25 of its latest editions to go and be put onto the National Film Registry to be preserved, so that no matter what would happen in the future, at least now the government will go and protect these movies inside the Library of Congress. And we actually do have the list right over here, and I'm going to be reading it directly from the Library of Congress's website, and you will see that there are actually several familiar names that are attached to it, but also two of which are the latest animated editions. And these include A Movie Trip Through Filmland, Dinner at 8, Bohulano Family Film Collection from the 1950s to the 1970s, Helen Keller in Her Story, Lady and the Tramp, Edge of the City, We're Alive, Cruisin' J-Town, Alambrista, Passing Through, Fame, Desperately Seeking Susan, The Lighted Field, Matewan, Home Alone, Queen of Diamonds, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Wedding Banquet, Maya Lin, A Strong Clear Vision, Apollo 13, Bamboozled, Love and Baseball, 12 Years a Slave, and 20 Feet from Stardom. And if we go on to this list here, the two animated ones that you may have noticed is actually Lady and the Tramp and The Nightmare Before Christmas. So if we go down onto this list to go into what they have described with the animated films, first we got Lady and the Tramp. This exquisite animated love story between a spoiled Cocker Spaniel and a mutt was arguably the most mature animation and love story created until then by Disney Studios. It also marked a technological innovation for Disney. In addition to standard theatrical formats, Disney released the film in widescreen CinemaScope process, in part to keep people going to the theaters following the advent of television. One of the studio's most beloved animated works, this unlikely love story is made memorable by endearing songs, excellent voice talents, which includes Barbara Luddy, Larry Roberts, Bill Thompson, Verna Felton, Bob Bocom, Peggy Lee, and Stan Freberg, and iconic moments, including a kiss involving spaghetti. And then there is also The Nightmare Before Christmas, and right on time for its 30th anniversary. To which it states right over here, the king of dark whimsy, Tim Burton, won an even larger and decidedly younger crowd with this delightful stop-motion animated offering. Jack Skellington, whose giant pumpkin head rests precariously on top of his rail-thin body, is the king of Halloween Town. One year he dreams of bringing a little Christmas magic to his humble hamlet. Conceived and produced by Burton, with direction by Henry Selick, Nightmare features creative set design to construct an imaginary world, songs by Danny Elfman, and the voice talents of Chris Sarandon, Catherine O'Hara, William Hickey, Ken Page, Paul Rubens, and Glenn Shaddix. It has become both a Yuletide and Halloween tradition for adults, kids, hipsters, and many Halloween fanatics. And of course, this is alongside many of the other recognizable names that you may have noticed in here, including Home Alone, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Apollo 13, 12 Years a Slave, and many more. So the big two that I do want to focus on is in regards to The Lady and the Tramp and The Nightmare Before Christmas. And honestly, it's two that I feel like, yes, they definitely do deserve to be added onto the National Film Registry, especially with the kind of cultural impact that they have laid. But I feel like with both Lady and the Tramp and The Nightmare Before Christmas, I think that they have been added for different reasons. With Lady and the Tramp, I feel like that one has been added more for historical reasons, especially when they have mentioned that it is a technological innovation, as it is the first Disney animated feature to be in widescreen CinemaScope. And when I say widescreen, like, I mean legit, like, widescreen. And I remember when doing the history of Lady and the Tramp, I did remember that it was actually considered to be a massive challenge for the animators, especially with the fact that technically, now that you have more screen to go and develop, that means it would require a lot more work, especially on the backgrounds, especially on the characters. Like now they suddenly have a lot more space, but that's not necessarily that great of a thing because it requires a lot more work to go and try to fill up that space, to make sure that the blocking, to make sure how everything is framed up. Like it requires a little bit more than the standard definition that they were used to work on back then. And not to mention to make sure that what they were able to go and adapt, like even if it would work on that CinemaScope, it would also work on that standard screen, because let's be honest, even back then, not all the cinemas had the CinemaScope. So it definitely was a challenge, but it was absolutely a challenge that did pay off. Now, not all the animated films that were released back in the 1950s were a hit. Alice in Wonderland, on its initial release, did not necessarily do well. It wasn't until until they would go and release it on television and they would do those reruns that it found its popularity. And even Sleeping Beauty, like some people would go and argue that Sleeping Beauty was actually the wish of Walt Disney's days, where back then it got the same kind of results. It got mixed reviews, it was over budgeted, and it became a box office flop. And unfortunately, it was the kind of flop that that Walt Disney and the committee the leaders at Disney had no choice but to lay off some people in order to go and compensate for the price that they have lost with Sleeping Beauty. So, but from there, Lady and the Tramp was actually considered to be one of the bigger hits, especially with how it stands out as one of the rare Disney films at the time that was not actually based on a fairy tale. It wasn't really about the fairy tale aspect. It was really primarily focused on the love story, where you got the rich girl and the poor boy. Suddenly they're falling in love, and like the love can be a little bit messy, but ultimately they would be together. And not to mention, of course, some of the iconic moments, including the spaghetti scene. I think it's safe to say that the spaghetti scene alone, and when you see the restaurant owners singing Bella Notte, like that alone, it is merited to be a part of the National Film Registry, especially with the fact that especially with the fact that it is not only one of the most iconic scenes in a Disney movie, but also it's like one of the first scenes you would think about when it comes to romance in movies. Like anytime you would see like any movie montage of like romance happening and you see like two characters falling in love, like it's almost a guarantee that they would also include the spaghetti scene from Lady and the Tramp. Like it really is that iconic, and in return it makes Lady and the Tramp one of the most iconic romance films of all time. So from there, I think in terms of its historical impact, both in cinema and in terms of culture, especially its impact within Disney, Lady and the Tramp definitely does deserve to be a part of it. And then the other one that you have is The Nightmare Before Christmas. And that one, I would say, it is a lot more impactful in terms of, how can I put this? It's in terms of its cultural impact is why it is in there, more so than I would debatably say in terms of its history. And it's funny to look back, and considering that I have talked about Hazbin Hotel and stuff like that, you could say that back then, even in terms of animation, Tim Burton was the Vivian Madrano of the 1990s, especially when you do think about The Nightmare Before Christmas and how that film managed to stand out compared to all the other movies that was released back then. And someone even mentioned, actually, this is a historical thing, that technically The Nightmare Before Christmas is actually the first ever stop motion animated feature to be included to the National Film Registry in the Library of Congress. Thank you, Ashton Lee, for that comment. Good eye right there. Good eye. But anyways, as I was saying, The Nightmare Before Christmas really does stand out compared to all the other animations that were released back then. Like, considering it was released during a time when Disney was really dominating the industry, and its art style was the one that like really did stand out. Meanwhile, like it was like television shows like Cartoon Net or television stations like Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon, they were just beginning. You know, they were only at the start of it. Like they have yet to like fully establish an audience. Like, yeah, they did have their audience, but they weren't as huge in the early 1990s. But with The Nightmare Before Christmas, though, that one has like this weird, like really out there design. Like this is the one that truly did emphasize the Burton style. Like, yeah, people did get a taste of it before with stuff like the Pee-wee's Big Adventure or with 1989's Batman, but The Nightmare Before Christmas is the one that really embraced its art style. It's the one where we truly see his art style fully coming to life. And it's one of the major things that really grabbed audiences' attention and really is part of the appeal and the charm of the movie itself. And not to mention its crazy unique idea of mixing Halloween and Christmas, where we kind of have like a mismatch in heaven, the way that it's trying to combine together, but obviously it cannot, but it still managed to work out very, very well. It's it's next to impossible to think about other projects that know how to mix two holidays that seemingly are like the complete opposites, but manage to find a way to blend them together into this one project. And that's especially the case with what they have done with The Nightmare Before Christmas. And now that thing has become massively huge. Debatably, it is one of the most iconic animated features ever made, and possibly the most iconic stop motion project that has ever been created. And it's considered to be one of Disney's biggest franchises, especially during the Halloween time. Like, when Halloween comes around, oh boy, does Disney embrace The Nightmare Before Christmas. And like, gradually they're starting to embrace some of their other properties as well. Like, if you go to the Spirit Halloween store, like, it's not just The Nightmare Before Christmas, but they even go all out with stuff like the Haunted Mansion or with Hocus Pocus. But their main one, like Disney's King of Halloween, is Jack Skellington. And like you know that there is a phase that some people would go and have where they would go and completely embrace The Nightmare Before Christmas, where in a way that macabre style would be a part of their lifestyle as well, and they would also embrace The Nightmare Before Christmas and the Tim Burton style and all that kind of stuff. So really, it's more of a cultural impact that The Nightmare Before Christmas that has been put on is considered one of the biggest that an animated feature could ever do. And in that regard, that explains how that movie is now a part of the Library of Congress and it deserves it oh so well. And by the way, if you do want to have a recap of some of the other animated works that you could find in the National Film Registry, Animation Magazine actually did create a list of all the animated works that you can find in the National Film Registry, half of which, or at least more than half of which, are actually from Disney, of course. And just to give you a quick recap, and I know, and some people are even pointing out that, yes, I know Henry Selick did direct the feature. That definitely is true. And some people, and I know it is still a major debate about whose movie is it, Henry Selick or Tim Burton's, and even I myself would say that it is a bit more Henry Selick's movie. Yes, it's Tim Burton's idea, but in terms of the feature itself, it is more Henry Selick's. But anyways, back onto the list, just to give you a quick recap of what has been added to the National Film Registry. Now, in terms of the animated offerings, they include, at least the Disney ones, Bambi, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Dumbo, Fantasia, The Lion King, The Little Mermaid, Mary Poppins, Pinocchio, Sleeping Beauty, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Steamboat Willie, The Story of Menstruation, The Three Little Pigs, and WALL-E. And now we can add two more with The Nightmare Before Christmas and Lady and the Tramp. So in total, that would make 17. And in terms of the ones from other studios, and oddly enough, the Pixar ones as well, we have a computer animated hand that was made in 1972 by Ed Catmull and Fred Park. We also got Betty Boop and Snow White, Duck Amuck, the Civil Defense PSA Duck and Cover, Gerald McBoing Boing, Gertie the Dinosaur, Little Nemo, Luxo Jr., One Froggy Evening, Popeye the Sailor meets Sinbad the Sailor, Porky and Wacky Land, Shrek, Tin Toy, Toy Story, What's Opera Doc, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, honestly, it's pretty weird. I think there might be a little bit of an error on this list because technically they have WALL-E on the Disney list, but then all the other Pixar ones, like Toy Story, Tin Toy, Luxo Jr., like, they're in the other studios category. I don't know. Like, it's just a little, I don't know. It's like a little flub on this list right over here, but it does give you a good idea of what is now within the Library of Congress, and all deservedly so. And now we can have the new additions with Nightmare Before Christmas and Lady and the Tramp. And this is not even to mention about the other ones that are included. Like I said, like many of the recognizable names like Home Alone, Terminator 2, Apollo 13, 12 Years a Slave, and many more. So with that said, I would like to say congratulations to the newest additions to the National Film Registry in the Library of Congress. It is great to see that it is a true testament to how they are now added and how like they are an example to the historical significance in our history and in cinema in general. All right, so with that said, I would like to now go onto the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you all think about the additions of Lady and the Tramp and Nightmare Before Christmas added to the Library of Congress? And if you would like to go and make a comment about some of the other movies that have been added, I would like to know your thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. All right, so let's see what we got here. Seeing two iconic animated films being added to the National Film Registry is definitely well-deserved. I love The Nightmare Before Christmas and Lady and the Tramp, while not Disney's best, is still very good. Also, I'm glad to see other films like Home Alone, Terminator 2, and 12 Years a Slave to be added because all those films are amazing in their own right. All in all, a huge congrats to all the films that were added this year. All right. These are some great additions to the National Film Registry. For me, I'm definitely happy that The Nightmare Before Christmas got added because of how much of a classic movie it is. Other than that, I am happy about Terminator 2 and Home Alone. Also, in terms of animated films, I want to see added in the future, for the animated films I want to see added to the future, I would love to see The Incredibles. Oh, that is another great one. And considering, like, they've already added a few, like, we already got, like, going back to the list, like, we already got, like, Toy Story, WALL-E, and some of the shorts as well. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe eventually they will add The Incredibles, or even Finding Nemo, or who knows, maybe even Monsters, Inc. for the matter. I mean, I feel like Monsters, Inc. could most likely be a good one that will be next, especially if, like, if Shrek, like, I think it would be for, like, some of the same reasons for Shrek, not only for the cinematic and historical significance, but also the cultural impact with the amount of memes that it has spawned out. Anyways, let's see what else we have here. Huge congrats to Lady and the Tramp and The Nightmare Before Christmas for making it to the National Film Registry. For the former, not only is it one of the best animated films, but also one of the best romance films of all time. And for the latter, no doubt that it is a fantastic stop-motion film. As for the other films, Home Alone, perfect timing considering that Macaulay Culkin got his Hollywood Walk of Fame not long ago. Huge win for Kevin McAllister. All right, let's see here. Here we have another great lineup, particularly The Nightmare Before Christmas. I went and rewatched it recently and it still holds up a ton, but one standout for me is Home Alone. It's among my favorite Christmas movies, plus it's funny, along with Nightmare, it's a win for Catherine O'Hara. Oh, that definitely is true, she was also in Home Alone. Also, I would make my usual joke about B-movie being added, but I've discovered a new meme to put in there. Both sides of Barbenheimer. I mean, that whole thing was historically significant. Technically, yes, but you'll have to wait for that because I believe the Library of Congress actually has a rule that you have to wait until the movie or the film itself is at least 10 years old. So I think with Barbie and Oppenheimer, you got to wait until 2033 until they can officially be added. But yeah, that is definitely worth considering, since like this year, oh boy, they're debatably the most impactful films of 2023. Let's see now. The movies that I am happy to see are Home Alone, Terminator 2, 12 Years a Slave, Apollo 13, Lady and the Tramp, and The Nightmare Before Christmas, which I got a shout out to one of my friends on social media for predicting the latter to get in. It is really nice to see some of the movies that I have seen or plan to see getting into this year, so congrats to all of them. Awesome. Let's see what else. What other comments would there be, just to make sure if I don't skip any? Actually, Shrek is already in the National Film Registry. Wait, did I say that it's not in there? Because, okay, maybe I've done a mistake. Yes, I know Shrek is in. Yeah, Shrek is in. But, like, what I was saying is that the Monsters, Inc. would be added in for the same reasons why Shrek is in there right now. So, just to make that clarify. That clarifier there. Do we have any other comments? Probably not. Okay, well, in that case, I think it would be a good time to go into one more break. And when we do come back into our grand finale, well, I think now it is going to be time that we will have our first taste of discussing about the next award season. So stay tuned for that. And now, everyone, it is now time that we will go and cap this episode off with the grand finale. And with this grand finale, well, let's just say that for the next episodes that are going to be coming at the start of 2024, expect me to talk about this a little frequently. But this is going to be a bit of your first taste of what will be to come of some of the things that I will be covering in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And of course, what I am talking about is going to be award season, especially when we have received the first batch of nominations coming from the Golden Globes. Yes, the Golden Globes has officially announced its list of nominations, and we have definitely seen a whole lot of different movies and shows that are getting nominated. And of course, the big ones from this year include Barbie, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Poor Things getting several nominations for the movie categories, of course. Where in the TV categories, we got Succession, The Bear, Only Murders in the Building, and The Crown that are big representatives in the TV categories. But what I am going to do, however, is just going to be focusing in the animation side. So, if we just go down from my list here in the Hollywood Reporter, the nominees for Best Animated Feature at the Golden Globes are The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, The Super Mario Bros. Movie, Suzume, and Wish. And by the way, it is also worth noting that animation has actually gotten a bit more representation than usual, in which they can actually be found in several different categories, especially when both Mario and Spider-Verse actually got 3 nominations each in total. So on top of the Best Animated Feature category, there is also a few nominations in the Cinematic and Box Office Achievement category, one of the new ones that they have created this year. And Spider-Verse and Mario are nominated alongside Barbie, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, John Wick Chapter 4, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. It is also worth noting that in the musical categories, there is some animated nominees. So if we just go a little bit down, right over here, for Best Original Score, they actually got The Boy and the Heron and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse that are nominated, in which it gives nominations for Joe Hisaishi and Daniel Pemberton, respectively, to which they are going to be competing against Poor Things, Oppenheimer, The Zone of Interest, and Killers of the Flower Moon. And meanwhile, in Best Original Song, Peaches from the Super Mario Brothers movie is nominated, in which that will have to compete against several Barbie songs, in which Barbie is actually nominated in half of the entire category, including Dance the Night, I'm Just Ken, and What I Was Made For, and it is nominated alongside Road to Freedom from Rustin and Addicted to Romance from She Came to Me. Now, it is also worth noting that during the week, the Critics' Choice Awards also released their list of nominations. And from there, they actually do have a very similar list to the Golden Globes, where they have The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Wish nominated, but instead of Mario and Suzume, they nominated Nimona and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And on top of that, they also have other animated not other animated movies, but other nominations where animation can actually be found. They also nominated Spider-Verse for Best Original Score, and surprisingly, they nominated for Best Visual Effects, and in the Best Original Song category, not only did they nominate Peaches, but they also nominated This Wish from Wish. So this is the big thing to go and highlight so far. And one thing that I do want to point out, and it is very interesting to note, it shows that the Golden Globes has really pumped up the amount of movies that they are nominated, where now they decided that for each category, they would go and nominate 6 movies in general. And there are a few where there would also be 8 nominees as well. Like in the cinematic and box office achievements, there's 8 nominations that can be found, where the rest, in general, there's actually 6 of them. Even for the acting categories, now there's like 6 people that are competing against one another. So you could tell that they have really boosted up the amount of nominees. And for the reasons why, it's like, yeah, it's sadly just, I hate to be cynical at this part, but it really is another example as to how the Golden Globes are still trying very hard in order to grab people's attention and to show and to give importance to the Golden Globes in itself. Because as you probably know, especially from the recent controversies, the relevancy of the Golden Globes have been dying down, and the big mission that the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has been trying to do is to keep itself relevant and to give, to still give importance to those trophies in particular, to show that they actually do have a meaning. So they have been changing things up, and they tried to address some of the controversies and stuff like that. And now they even changed things in terms of the categories, not only giving more nominations, but even creating those new categories, including Best Stand-Up Special and Best Box Office Hit. And I've already talked about this before, and especially with the box office hit category, it's like such an unnecessary addition, and there are plenty of others that they could have done that would have been much more well-deserved than that. But still, though, you could see how this, you could see why they would go and try to do that strategy and try to give out more movies to give a nomination as well, to give them more importance, to give them more relevancy, and to make them more of a big deal, especially when it comes to some of the more popular ones. And that is especially the case with Best Cinematic and Box Office Achievement, where in there, yeah, you would get like some of the obvious ones that did get several nominations, like Barbie, Oppenheimer, Across the Spider-Verse, and Mario, but it's also an excuse to go and say that, hey, look, Guardians of the Galaxy is also nominated. Taylor Swift is also nominated. John Wick is also nominated. So it's more of a marketing strategy, not just for the Golden Globes, but also for the studios, so that they could go and keep on promoting their past works to say that, hey, look, our movie just got nominated. And the more that they would go and like have more movies say that they got nominated, the more representation that the studios would go and have for those particular movies that would give more attention to the Golden Globes. Now, is this something that honestly works out for them? I don't know, like, it is kind of like a novelty tactic, and I don't know if it's something that is like very well deserved, that if you would go and nominate more movies, then it would probably go and spark more interest. But would it still hold value to the Golden Globes themselves? That I honestly don't know. I mean, yeah, it's nice to see that we would get more movies that can get a chance to be nominated, including some unexpected surprises like Suzume and Wish. But still, though, again, it's just like, okay, maybe it's nice that you could say that these movies have been nominated, but a lot of these strategies just feel unnecessary. And I don't know if these are something that can actually help out with the core problem with what the Golden Globes have. You know, it would require a lot more repairs than just nominating more movies in general, or just, try to give more nominations to the big name movies to grab more mainstream attention. That's just something that I'm not 100% sure. It's just something that I don't really know if it's something that could really help out in terms of like solving the problem for the Golden Globes to actually make it feel more meaningful. In fact, I would argue that there is a part of it that feels like it gives it less value, because it's kind of like the syndrome mentality. If everyone, if everyone feels special to be nominated for a Golden Globe, then no one will be. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like that. So it's just a weird thing that I'm seeing the Golden Globes is doing. Like, it's nice that we see like more different films being nominated, but again, it's just a question of the necessity of it all. Like, is it necessary to go and nominate all these movies? Is it really going to help out for people to go and take the Golden Globes seriously? That I don't know. But anyways, now with that out of the way, now I want to go and actually talk about the nominees themselves, especially with how they have performed at the Golden Globes. And it's honestly very surprising where now we actually have multiple movies being nominated. Okay, like, let's just say, let's not actually count the box office achievement award, because that one just feels like a really stupid gimmick. And I'll even say now, chances are either Barbie or Oppenheimer is going to go and get that one. So yeah, that one doesn't necessarily mean all that much. But it's what I find to be very fascinating is in the musical categories, especially when we see Best Original Score, where we actually have multiple animated features be nominated. Now, that is something you don't actually see every day, especially with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. But especially one that I am personally excited and one that I am rooting for is actually Joe Hisaishi with The Boy and the Heron. Honestly, I love the works of Joe Hisaishi. Like, he would go and produce like this very soothing and calming orchestral piece that is led by a piano. And I would even say with The Boy and the Heron, that one is no different. Like, it is a key component that it made the movie feel like an authentic Studio Ghibli film, and like it's like both fresh and familiar with what he has delivered. And I'm honestly really glad to see that now he's getting some award recognition where his score is finally good enough to actually go and compete against many of the other categories, and like to actually compete against like either Oppenheimer or Killers of the Flower Moon or Spider-Verse. You know, that is honestly awesome. And I mean, like, the score for Across the Spider-Verse is fantastic, but personally, as a fan of Joe Hisaishi, I'm definitely going to be rooting for him on that one. But then one that I feel like is a big surprise is actually Peaches gonna be competing for Best Original Song. And I know, like, I remember back during the big craze of the Mario movie when it was out in theaters, a lot of people were talking about how Peaches should be nominated for Best Original Song and stuff like that. And I will admit, I did have my doubts back then, because Peaches did actually feel like more of a novelty song than an actual song that you can use for like legit, for the same reasons of other songs that are from movies and stuff like that. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's more of a joke than it actually is a song. And I don't mean that as a bad way. I love Peaches as well, but it's just more the purpose of it. It feels more like a gag, more so than an actual like song that they could go and produce. But still, I find it very shocking that no, I was proven wrong. It is actually proven that now Peaches can actually be a legitimate competitor during this award season, and not just with the Golden Globes, but also in the Critics' Choice Awards. They also nominated that song as well. So there is a good chance that we could see Peaches also be nominated for Best Original Song. So that honestly was definitely a pleasant surprise to see. So for me, I would say that I didn't expect it, but you know what? If we're gonna be serious, if we're actually gonna go and have Peaches be competing in this, let's freaking go, man. Now, is it going to win? That I'm not 100% sure, because I feel like one of the Barbie songs is going to most likely take the trophy for that one, especially when both at the Golden Globes and at the Critics' Choice Awards, they decided to take all three of the Barbie songs and be nominated for that. So I feel like Barbie might have the upper edge on that, but still, it is fun to actually see it be nominated. But then you have the big one with Best Animated Feature, in which we have, again, The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the Mario movie, Suzume, and Wish, all nominated right over here. And especially with what we have seen with the Critics' Choice Awards, with their list as well, I feel like, honestly, now we can actually have a good idea of what is going to be nominated at the Oscars. Like, I feel like now we do have a little bit of a vision of what it is going to be. I know that I am currently breaking my annual tradition of, like, doing the nominees from the short list and stuff like that, but I feel like based on what we have seen with both the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, we might actually have a good idea of what the Oscars is going to do. Now, it is going to be a little bit tricky considering both the Globes and the Critics, they decided to do 6 nominations, and the Oscars, I'm sure they're just going to stick with just 5, but we do have a good idea of who will be nominated. Like, I think it is a confirmation that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Elemental, and The Boy and the Heron, they got it reserved. They got their nominations for sure, locked and loaded. So they're going to be nominated right over there. But then you got the other 2. And now we got 5 other animated features that feel like they are most likely going to get that position. We got the Super Mario Brothers movie. We got Suzume. We got Nimona. We got Wish. And we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. But the big question is, though, for the Oscars, who would those other 2 be? So let's go ahead and take a look into the other 5. Now, I'm not going to go and comment onto the other 3 that are for sure going to be nominated, and personally, I feel like they are absolutely well deserved. Of course, you got your essential indie film, which is going to be The Boy and the Heron. Very well deserved. Fantastic movie. Maybe not the best Studio Ghibli film out there, but still great on its own. Elemental, again, maybe not the best Pixar movie, but still a solid feature, and debatably the strongest the strongest Disney movie that they did put out. And then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, well, I mean, I guess there's no explanation. Definitely does deserve to have a nomination right there. But then you have the others. So who would be the other 2 that would be nominated? Okay, so first off, you got Suzume, which that one I feel like is unlikely because they already got a Japanese animated feature to be nominated with The Boy and the Heron. I don't know if they're going to go and put up a second one, especially when this is from the director of Weathering With You and Your Name. And I know that Weathering With You did not get a nomination, so chances are Suzume might not as well. So there is that chance. So I feel like it's going to be highly unlikely it will be that one. And then there's also the Super Mario Brothers movie. And even though there is a high chance that Peaches could get nominated for Best Original Song, I don't think we will see a Best Animated Feature nomination for the Super Mario Brothers movie. I highly doubt it. Yes, it is the most successful animated film of 2023, and one of the most successful movies, where it is one of the 2 only films to cross $1 billion at the box office. But still, though, it is very rare for Illumination to actually get an Oscar nomination in the first place. And I mean, if Minions Rise of Gru didn't get a nomination despite being very successful, I don't think Mario would get a nomination. So I'm mostly highly doubtful on that. And then you have Nimona, which I think it absolutely will get nominated because every year you need your essential Netflix movie. Now that seems to be the new tradition for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. And I think Nimona is absolutely going to fit the bill on that one. So yeah, Nimona for sure is going to get that nomination, and absolutely well deserved. It is one of my favorite movies of 2023. Such a beautiful masterpiece that the people at Annapurna and the former people at Blue Sky Studios that they have done with it. Love it, and I wish them all the best during this award season. But then it leaves the final position, and we got 2 movies left: Wish and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And in that regard, I feel like they are in equal positions. I feel like they both have an equal chance to actually get nominated. Now, beforehand, I would say that it would easily be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I think, I would have thought that would have the higher chance. And considering the recent reception, including the critical reception of Wish, it might end up being similar to what we have seen with Strange World and just not get a nomination. I thought that maybe that would most likely be the case. But surprisingly, no. Wish actually proved itself to have a strong chance and to legitimately be a competitor during award season. Maybe it's not gonna win, but the fact that it is nominated is kind of a shock, even for me, even for someone who actually thought Wish was surprisingly enjoyable and was actually good. Even I'm surprised that Asha found herself competing against all the others for Best Animated Feature. So from there, we could actually see a chance that it may get a nomination for Best Animated Feature. Will it be likely? Will it not? Who knows? But I will say, though, if there is one thing that I want to see from Wish, debatably even more so than being nominated for Best Animated Feature, I would love to see this Wish be nominated for best original song, like to be up there with Peaches. Honestly, I feel like the song This Wish, it's definitely one of the great highlights of the movie, and I think it's one of the better parts, and personally my favorite song from Wish, and I feel like that one definitely deserves to have a Best Original Song nomination. So if we can't nominate Wish for Best Animated Feature, then honestly, I am rooting for it to have This Wish be nominated for Best Song. But then again, it looks like maybe there is a chance that we could actually see Wish actually get a nomination. But ultimately, we will have to wait and see sometime next month, I believe, where they're going to go and announce the nominations. So for my prediction for the Oscars, based on what we have seen for both the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards, I think the nominees for Best Animated Feature will be Elemental, The Boy and the Heron, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Nimona, and I'm gonna go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I know it seems like a shock, but I think the Academy might go with Mutant Mayhem over Wish. Even though I would like to put Wish in the nominations, or even Suzume, that's going to be my guess overall. Oh, excuse me, folks. Hey, I just got out of a sickness, so there might be some residue. But anyways, with that said now, I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I would like to know, what do you all think about the nominees for the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice Awards? And if you want to go and discuss about the other categories that I haven't discussed about, feel free to do so. And also, I would like to know what you think. What are your predictions of what is going to be nominated for Best Animated Feature at the Oscars? Let me know your thoughts on that. Okay. Oh boy, there's one especially that's popping out their nominations again and again. Let's see. Mine is a bit of a hot pick here, but my nominations for the Oscars for Best Animated Feature are The Boy and the Heron, Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget, Elemental, Across the Spider-Verse, and Wish. I chose Chicken Run 2 because the first film was responsible for creating Best Animated Feature category, so better for the Oscars to say thanks to that film, and I had to leave out Nimona because other movies based on graphic novels don't get nominated in this category. I mean, technically that is true, but then again, technically you could say the Spider-Verse films are considered based on a graphic novel, so, and I mean, it's for sure that the second one's getting nominated. The first one won Best Animated Feature. I don't know, I feel like, and I do get what you mean, though. And it is true that with Armin Animation, they often get a lot of representation in animation. So, yeah, it is true that Chicken Run could actually be a contender in this. But considering that we haven't seen Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget be nominated in some of the other categories, I just feel pretty doubtful on that. All right, anyways, all right, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. Animation fans, stop attacking Wish and the filmmakers. They have the right to be here like any other film. Makes you look like a douche. Okay, now that I'm calm, overall, congrats to the nominees that were nominated in the animation category. If I were choosing to pick one, it's The Boy and the Heron. As for that new category, it's kind of stupid in my opinion. This is why the Oscars got rid of most popular film category before it even existed. Oh boy, is it true that people are attacking the filmmakers of Wish? Seriously? Has the animation community really stooped that low? Oh, jeez, man. Yeah, that's not a good look. I mean, it's one thing to have your opinion about Wish, but if you're gonna be resorting to attacking and harassing the filmmakers, that is not cool. That is objectively much worse than what you claim Wish is. Seriously, this. And I mean, like, I know I've gotten my own backlash where people got mad at me for liking Wish and calling me a Disney shill and stuff like that. But still, though, if it's going to be at the point where people are attacking Wish's filmmakers, like if it's going to be at that level of toxicity, then honestly, like, I want no part of it. Like, this is exactly why the cartoon community has such a bad reputation, and honestly, this is the kind of crap that needs to be addressed. And honestly, I feel like the big influencers should also address this. Like, can we at least get a message from either, like, Saber Spark or Shafrillas? Like, I'm not saying that they should change their opinion on Wish, but can they please go and address this issue? Like, if that really is the case, to stop attacking the people at Disney Animation just because they made a movie? It's freaking ridiculous, man. Let's see what else we have here. Honestly, I will say I feel mixed about the Golden Globes nominations. Personally, while most of the movies in there deserve to be nominated, for me, I would have switched Wish and Mario with Nimona and Mutant Mayhem. While I like both those movies, I prefer Nimona and Mutant Mayhem. However, one thing I'm not looking forward to is the toxic animation community getting angry that Wish got nominated instead of Nimona. Well, I mean, to be fair, if they really are that upset that Wish is not, like, if there are people out there who are really that upset that Wish got nominated instead of something like Nimona or TMNT at the Golden Globes, let's just ask one question. What the fridge do they know? Let's be real. What do they know? All right, anyways, what else do we have here? I think I'll just read one more comment because we're almost running out of time. Okay, just two, quickly two. Anyways, well, what a start. Some of the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice nominations, we still have to wait and see with what the Annies, the Producers Guild, and the BAFTAs will say, so I won't say it's a proper conclusion here on who gets nominated, but I'm saying it now. The Boy and the Heron, Spider-Verse, Nimona, and one I'm curious if it does come up is The Peasants. And it also is a possibility to get double nominations because it could also get nominated for Best International Feature as it is a Poland submission, but we will see. Interesting choice. Not many people would go directly onto like some of the other indie films. I will say, interesting selection for The Peasants. Another one I would also highlight, maybe there is a chance for The Inventor. That would also be very intriguing to see it nominated. Anyways, I predict Spider-Verse, Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, and TMNT Mutant Mayhem to get nominated at the Oscars, with Spider-Verse still being the frontrunner. Happy to see Spider-Verse and Boy and the Heron getting recognition for the scores at the Golden Globes, although they will lose to Oppenheimer, but happy to see it get nominated. Alright, so with that said, I believe that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Once again, just to remind you all, there will be no episodes either on Christmas Day or on January 1st, but we will be back on January 8th for the top 5 animation news of 2023. And with all that said, also I just want to say congratulations to all those who have been nominated at the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice Awards, and best of luck to them both. And also, since we are capping this off, I just want to say to you all, happy holidays, happy late Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy New Year, and so much more. And I wish you all the best for 2024 to have a happy and enjoyable time. And with all that said and done, I would also like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel and on the AniMat Live Twitch channel. And don't forget to follow me on whatever podcast service you're listening to, rather it be on Spotify, Google, Amazon, iTunes, and more. So with all that said, happy holidays, and until next time, see you later, dudes!